Live.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Langan.
Today is June 9th, 2020. This is it week 13?
I have no idea anymore.
Have we given up on counting the days of the quarantine? We do know it's June 9th, 2020, and this is NPU Live, our national broadcast of the National Parents Union.
It's Tuesday. It is Tuesday.
I am having a hard time with the days of the week.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking yesterday was I'm all over the place. It is for us here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, most schools anyway, the last week of school. So I'm feeling a little tense, Tim.
Why is that, Keri? I haven't picked up on that at all. Please go on.
Because between the two of us, we got 5 little boys.
It's a lot of boys. That's enough. That's a reason to be tense.
And you know, it's one thing. I haven't been in love with the structure of school or the support that we have received from some school districts and some schools or some individual educators, but at least it was something. And now we are heading into a period of, I don't know, parents just kind of figure it out on your own.
Don't have a choice.
Yikes. So I'm feeling a little nervous.
Yep.
I want to kind of break down the fourth wall here, let people into our little our little bubble, or at least let them peer in.
That's right. So imagine this: we've got 5 boys.
5.
Okay, Matthew, Miles, David, Dylan, Max.
M's and D's.
M's and D's.
All from age 7 to almost 13.
That's right. We planned it that way so we can keep them straight. M's over here, the D's over here.
Yeah, the D's are the danger duo.
That's right. We keep them furthest away. That's right.
Living their best 7-year-old life. But so what we did last night is we tried to set up a little schedule.
That's right.
So Dad is going to be taking on the role of
I'm the PE teacher, even though I sucked at PE in school, but I'll do it.
Yeah, but you're like a muscly guy. You know how to throw a baseball, pick up weights, run them a little bit.
That's right. I feel like this is a dad-to-dad topic, whether or not that should be on me.
I know.
But that's okay. I will do it.
Yeah.
I will do it.
Well,
I need the exercise. I'm putting on that COVID 20.
And mom is going to do some art.
Yeah, that's right. You got to do some art.
We're going to do some music. We're going to have a movie night. But
we
are trying to plan. We're trying to plan and set up a little schedule because, oh my goodness.
Well, you have to. You can't bring them to the parks. You can't bring them to any tourist things. Like we've got the Museum of Science around here. We got Legoland. Not going there.
No.
Not going there.
And what I do find interesting is the conversation that is happening in the parent community around, are we ready to start re-engaging with play groups? Are we ready to go to the park? Parks are going to start opening slowly, but a lot of parents saying they're not ready. Scary Mommy, a blog that we reference quite often here. Incredible blog post this week talking about we might be that family that is not going to meet you at the park this summer. Not going to do the play dates, not going to do that because we're just not ready. And that kind of rolls us into our conversation that we just want to start off. A lot of school districts starting to talk about, preparing for reopening.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Like when you actually realize what you're going to have to do to be able to open. Oh my goodness.
I feel like based on what I've seen so far, Keri, is that we're still stumbling out of week 1. We're not looking at what's practical, what's doable. I honestly, not to be harsh, but I question whether or not some of the people actually throwing these ideas out there have children and have actually ever sent their children to school.
So let's talk about Double D, the dangerous duo, David and Dylan. Okay, they're 7, and both are 150% boy. Now, if you're a boy mama like me, you know what that means. That means we are wrestling, we are dragons, we are dinosaurs, we are danger, we are
just arguing about everything and fighting over everything. And nothing I say is right.
And we're touching each other's body. We're all over. We're all over.
And the mask never fits and nothing's ever right.
And I don't want to do this. And do I have to keep it on my nose? Or this smells funny and I want to eat Doritos and I can't eat it with my mouth. So like what learning is going on in a classroom with Double D? I don't know. And double D times 10 or times 5, because we're hearing that we don't even think, we're thinking classroom size is going to be 10. Like, let's not even get started here. Like, average class size in our city, about 22 to 25. So
Yep.
what are we doing with those 12 to 15 kids? I don't know. We're not even talking about that yet. But imagine double D times 5 in a classroom. How is that happening? And that's just face masks. Like,
that's just face masks.
We're not even talking about wiping stuff down.
No.
Again, we have.
Do they even know what napkins are?
No, like,
because they think it's their shirt.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because it's like the shirt, it's like that.
And how can you put your masks on if one finger's up your butt, the other finger's up your nose?
Yeah, there's a lot of bodily fluid going on.
Yep.
And you ask them too, like, what's going on?
What's going on up there? Nothing. Just where I put my hand.
So, yeah, I think you're right, Tim. Like, do these folks coming up with these recommendations have children? Have you ever been a child? Like, could you even harken back to like?
Or were you just when you were born? Were you hatched as a superintendent of whatever district?
Come on, people! Like, we gotta get real,
right?
Okay, and so you made an interesting comment, which I think is something that
Which
we're
one was
gonna
that?
explore. You make many interesting comments, but one that I really want to explore is really just thinking about the what we have been doing with this last 3 months, what we're going to do with the next 3 months. Like, you've been spending a lot of time, education policy folks, and superintendents and principals and educators and secretaries of education, coming down on parents. This is what you should be doing. This is what you have to be doing. Not a lot of preparation for like the actual new contracts that we're going to have. Like, why not spend this time, instead of putting the hammer down on parents and saying you're not doing enough, you're not filling out enough worksheets.
I'm sorry, Mr. Langen, that you're having difficulty with Zoom. I'm not having difficulty with Zoom. I know how to use Zoom. You know who you are.
Yes.
You're having difficulty with Zoom.
Yes. Why not be training our teachers how to use this new technology, giving them some skills, updating, like, what is it going to look like? Because we're going to have to do virtual learning, because frankly, we're having 10 kids in a classroom. What 10 kids? Like, how are you going to pick the kids? Are the parents going to be okay? Like, those 10 kids, are they safe? Are they keeping them out? Like, so many logistics with that. Would love to see you concentrating on what it's going to look like the vast majority of kids who are going to have to learn through virtual learning. What that's going to look like. Like, really focus. Like, how do we teach kids that have to learn at home? What does it look like technically? What does it look like logistically? What does it look like for educators? How do we support them? How do we not make parents insane, and actually have them on the team and maybe train them as well?
How do we learn how to set recurring meetings on your calendar for Zoom? Sorry, just spent a little bit more there.
Yeah, a little sensitive.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, because again.
And how do we accommodate kids that maybe don't learn that great with screens?
That's right. They like screens, but learning and actually penetrating here, that is one of the most important lessons I've actually learned as a parent.
I cannot set my oldest down. Sorry to cut you off there. I can't put Max down in front of a screen at 9 a.m. first thing in the morning. Not happening. A lot of hidden buttons. A lot of zooming around. There's not a lot of learning going on.
Yeah. David likes to go outside in the morning time. He likes to be outside, watering the plants. Yeah. Doing his work, because he has work in the yard. That's the kind of kid he is. He likes a little fresh air. Yeah. Likes to do that in the morning, and then he's ready to sit down and do some learning a little later in the day. Right. So I know that about my kid. Now I'd like to tell his new teacher, who won't know him at all, some of the information that I've learned, and frankly, help to make sure that they can learn when they're ready. So, like, shouldn't we be having those conversations instead of the ridiculous ones we are right now?
Well, we've had a few months, and so maybe over the next few months, they'll have more conversations, and eventually they'll figure something out.
Tim, I gotta say, I'm a little skeptical. I think
we
are going to end up having to take action.
You think so?
I guarantee you.
You think so?
You will see me shutting down Malden Town Center.
But isn't summer the time for vacation? Isn't that when humans take breaks?
well, I guess a certain variety, but not parents, because parents, it's time to get to work.
That's right.
And that's why we are so grateful this morning. We are going to be joined by some incredible folks that I'm excited to get to. Before we do, we've got to stop and get a little update on what's happening with the coronavirus and why we are all inside. So Tim, how are we doing?
Because now we have confirmed 2 million cases. Congratulations, United States of America. We've hit the 2 million case mark and 113,000 deaths.
This all happening while our Black and Brown communities have to be forced to be in the streets to fight for their lives. And we have incompetent leadership in Washington, D.C. So, parents, again, it's left to us to protect our families, and excited to talk to some folks that are doing just that and fighting for our families at the same time.
That's
Not
right.
just their kids, all of our kids.
That's right. And if you have, if you want to talk about this a little bit more, send your thoughts, send your tips, send your feedback to info@npunion.org. That's info@npunion.org. Also, please stop what you're doing now. Share this show with anyone you think might benefit from it. Right now, parents need resources more than ever. We want to give you a hand.
That's right. And if you'd like to be on the show, we want to hear from you.
Please.
We'd like to hear your tips, your tricks. We're all trying to figure this stuff out together. What are you doing for summer? I need some help. I need some tips.
Please, God help
me. We
me.
need art projects. If you've got any art projects, music projects, let us know. Please help.
Send them our way.
That's right. Lots of exciting guests this week too. Mira Brown will join us tomorrow with Colleen.
She helps me a lot.
We'll be talking with Maritza, who will be hosting her show Wednesday night.
That's right. Can we talk to her?
Sharonda Knott Dawson and David Knott Daniel from Boston. Dad to Dad on Thursday.
That's right.
At 4 p.m. Big topic this week, talking about divorce.
Divorce.
The big D.
The big D.
Not a lot of talk about divorced families.
No.
During the pandemic, by the way.
They're out there.
It's not just mom and dad
Nope.
trading off who's going to be doing the schooling. There are homes where co-parenting is happening.
That's right.
That is interesting. Can't wait to get that perspective. And then on Friday morning, we'll have Mira and Colin Seal joining us on this broadcast. So excited to continue our conversations.
It's going to be a great week.
All right. Well, I am very excited to welcome back one of our friends of the National Parents Union, joining us from Scissortail Community Development Corporation, doing incredible work in Oklahoma. And really speaking truth to power. I love watching this guy work.
He's incredible.
In action, asking the tough questions, holding feet to the fire. He's doing it through Zoom. He's rolling past your office. He is in the mix. He's in your newspaper with his op-eds.
That's right.
Fierce all the time. I don't know where he gets the energy. Plus, he's a proud daddy.
That's right.
Mariachi King as well.
Oh, so, that's right.
I am just.
He was one of our first guests.
Yeah, he was one of our first
guests. I remember.
I've been enjoying his, when I need a moment, because here in Boston we have Veronica Robles, who's an incredible mariachi, female mariachi. She's got this beautiful group. I love watching her, but now I have Robert too to kind of mix up my repertoire here and kind of make my appreciation a little deeper. So Robert, so good to see you this morning. How are you, friend?
And Robert, we were talking about production before the show. I'm going to show you some of my production skills right now.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that.
We call it personal laptop.
That's right.
The
pan.
That's right. Oh,
that's right. I was
the fancy production
here.
words happening. Robert, so good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Yeah.
First guests, on this broadcast, we love to watch you in action and all the work that you've been doing in Oklahoma and really powerful stuff, incredible stuff.
Thank you.
And equity. I love it. Your op-eds, I just reading your writing also lights me up. But let's check in. How's the family? How you guys doing? How was graduation and the year? How did that go?
Mixed feelings, I guess. It's our daughter senior this year, trying to go through some semblance of a celebration for all the work that she's done, because she is just one of those, ambitious hard workers, and she's done some amazing things and built on her own a full academic ride to university, and we're just so proud of her. But then also trying to make sure that she is celebrated and her work is celebrated, she's recognized, and so that's been a journey for sure. Our youngest daughter, this was her 8th grade year, and she was looking forward to some of the ceremony that goes along with that. And yeah, so it's definitely been a journey. The time that we've had with our kids at home has been amazing. The time that we've spent cooking together and doing yard projects together, and things like that, I think we'll remember for the rest of our lives. And so it's just been a mixture of different feelings all over the place. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying earlier, the districts just kind of gave up on learning for the for the rest of the year, and so that was a challenge as well. One of our children, just trying to see if there was a way to get their grade up, and it's just the small microcosm of what I think all parents are dealing with, but at the same time, we've been very blessed. I know a lot of parents have been having a much more difficult time during this period, and we work with many of those parents, and that's been an exciting journey. I mean, you talk about a group of parents who has not just kind of sat by the wayside and just taking things as they come and just trying the best to deal. They've gotten on the proactive side, and I'm really excited to talk about some of the things that they've done and some of the exciting developments over the past couple of weeks.
And you guys have had to do that work because just like you, we understand. Like, it's first and foremost, we had to rapid respond. We had to make sure families were okay. They had the information that we at least could come and provide some stability, some resources, get people connected. That was like phase one of advocacy for groups like yours, groups like mine. But you also got to walk and chew gum, because we know that while all of this stuff was happening, policymakers were not asleep. They were not resting. They were doing what they do, which is make terrible decisions without parents at the table. And then we have to, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? But
exactly right.
You know how they play us if we are not, at the table, we are on the menu. So I want to talk all about, because you have been incredibly successful in activating parents, because parents were not going to sleep. I think they thought they were going to catch us with this one, and we are more engaged and inspired and ready to change things for our children now more than ever, because we're with them all the time. It seems more critical. Talk to us about what's been going on.
So first of all, let me just say, parents are powerful. Parents are powerful. Parents don't need to be empowered by anybody. They have power. So really kind of our role in this whole world is really just trying to facilitate parents using that power, right? And so, our parents, there was a group of parents that had come, one parent in particular that came to one of our charter school celebrations, and she was like, because we were talking about democratizing education and how communities can start schools and, this whole process. And she said, Robert, can we just start our own school? Our Hispanic families are not being served well. My kid's a special needs student, and forget about it, And so we've been on this journey together with our parents. They've met so many times, discussed many things that they want. They're basically designing a school. And over the past couple of weeks, this conversation and this movement has kind of skyrocketed. So we're actually looking at potentially opening doors this August on a new school.
That is extraordinary.
Unbelievable. And it's amazing that you guys were talking about essentially everything that we've been talking to with parents. And the new school is going to be beyond all of the other things that we've discussed about cultural relevancy, about dual language, all these things that our Hispanic parents want. It's also going to be it's a blended learning center. So regardless what happens with the virus, regardless of what parents need to do to keep their kids safe, they will have full access to curriculum online. If they want to be at the school in person, they will have a school to go to. So it's not just either or, like 100% online or 100% at a school. The teachers, the first founding group of teachers that have come on board are all bilingual. They're all being trained in special education as well. It's amazing some of the philosophies also, as far as forming relationships between the teachers and the students, because you were talking about that too. Like the teachers need to get to the students. The teachers need to get trained on technology. Right now, they're all going through certification on Google Education. So it's tough stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on with really online education, right? It's not just jumping on a Zoom call. I mean, there's so many things that go into that. And
that is the thing, and that is what is so concerning to many of us right now, is the fact that right now the focus seems to be on how quickly can we shove our kids back in the box that didn't fit them before, and we didn't like it, and frankly we've polled parents, and parents say we don't want to go back in that box. But policymakers, elected officials, everybody is so focused on how do we quickly shove our kids back in that box, instead of using this time to say, why don't we innovate? This is a moment where we've had to go on pause. Let's dig deep and say, okay, let's reimagine schools like you guys are doing right now. That's why I'm so excited about this. Reimagining what school looks like, but then understanding that with that reimagination, there has to be skills development for educators, because this is a different way of presenting information. And what I love about what you guys are doing too, I get a little nervous, frankly, when I hear, immersion, when I hear dual language, because I've seen this done very badly in traditional district schools. Where I'm sitting right now, there's a program called Unidos, where it has become kind of a boutique program in one of our schools in the Hispanic section of our city, where you shove your white kid in to learn Spanish, and isn't that amazing? Like your child's getting this boutique experience where they're learning Espanol. Oh my goodness! But you take a look at the children who are English language learners, it's the results for them are terrible. This is a whole different way. It's done in cooperation with community, with parents, done in a very sensitive, culturally, impressed. Like all of this is infused with respect for culture and kind of the evolution of what
history.
Yeah. So talk to us about how did you guys come up with this idea? Like how this was actually going to come together, let alone get educators on board with doing it.
Yeah. So it's been developing over years, but just this last part is just really catapulted the project. But the kind of ideas that we're talking about are that, our ESL learners are traditionally the most underserved group within our districts here in Oklahoma, and talking about how education for them can be different. Many times our English language learners are relegated to the back of classrooms while they're trying to catch up on English language skills. They get pulled out maybe an hour a day to work on English language skills, but at the same time, it's kind of one of the only times that they're able to be around other people that speak Spanish, right? So they're with their primos in another classroom with a teacher that speaks Spanish, and a lot of times there's not a lot of English language learning going on. And then meanwhile, they're falling behind on all their subjects because they're being taught in English, right? Well, guess what? Math is the same in Spanish as it is in English. Science is the same in Spanish as it is in English. These children have a native language that they're strong in. Why can't they continue to learn in Spanish while they're getting caught up on their English language skills? That's something that doesn't make any sense to me, to where we have a group that has the highest dropout rate because they never get engaged in education.
Well,
right?
And that's the thing, Robert. It's like it's looked upon because you speak a different primary language, that is a deficit, as if you're not smart enough to grasp any other concept because you have not, engaged with the English language yet. Our kids are bright and beautiful. They just have a different primary language. So to deprive them of, growth in these other areas because they speak another primary language, and looking at that as a deficit instead. I mean, when you actually lay it side by side, children that are speaking multiple languages are bright and extraordinarily gifted because they're able to master multiple languages. Like that is actually an asset. But instead, we look at these kids as if, their deficits, their drains on this, all of these different things, that it's just so backwards. So your approach is actually to embrace that as, this is something different, but this is extraordinary, and we don't need to catch them up on all of these other, they're grasping these concepts. It's just the English, like we'll also teach them English at the same time.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity because these students can continue their education on the Spanish language, because what it ultimately we want at the end of the day are kids that are fully bilingual and formally educated in both English and Spanish, because they will graduate high school being fully bilingual, being extremely sought after in the job in the job market, and be ambassadors for our community, be ambassadors for our community, be ambassadors for our culture, because the culture will be integrated into the studies, our history will be integrated. One of the biggest frustrating things that our Hispanic parents experience is that our kids grow up and are educated in places where they don't see people that look like themselves in history. They don't see heroes that look like themselves. When you're looking at George Washington, when you're looking at Abraham Lincoln, when you're looking at all these people, it's hard for us to see ourselves reflected in those people. They're all very important, but there are people in history who have also contributed. Not very many people know about General Galvez. General Galvez, Galveston was named after General Galvez. He helped fund and arm the American Revolution. It had maybe even a bigger impact than Lafayette had on the American Revolution, yet we never talk about him.
And it's all that mindset, right? When our kids don't see themselves reflected in American history, when they don't see themselves even reflected in classroom leadership, the mindset of, well, historically, people like me have always been servants or the working class or whatever. You don't dream, you don't think big. And frankly, sometimes the system doesn't think big for you. The educators don't think big. The belief gap is a very real thing. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I'm going to aspire to be a mechanic or a janitor or, a housekeeper, because that's all I see around me. That's the option that's available to me. It's just picking from these things instead of thinking big about, maybe I'm going to launch a social revolution. Maybe I am going to be a school district leader, whatever it is. I'm going to be a doctor. It makes me think of my Miles the other day. Our friend Marielle just graduated from Harvard with her PhD in education. And I was showing him pictures of her. And, he was looking at her and saying, Mommy, when I graduate from Harvard and I'm a doctor, there will be much more pizza at my celebration, because he sees her and says, of course, it doesn't matter what color you are. Like, I'm going to be a doctor, but my celebration will have lots of pizza because that's what I enjoy. So
that's right.
It's so important that our babies see that. Robert, we're going to continue. I hope you don't mind. I want to follow all of this evolution because I think this is an example of what's happening in Oklahoma that should be held up across the country. I have been talking about your work. I'm going to continue. I want to follow this step by step to see how this evolves, because I want to see people in other states embracing this and actually thinking through. I mean, you have a number of programs from Choice Matters, Aspiring Americans, Academia OKC, all of these things that you are building in to your organization, putting parents in the mix, helping them to develop their own skills, helping them to develop their advocacy for their kids, building their own schools. I mean, this stuff is extraordinary. It's got to be spread across the country, and I'm loving it. But before,
the parents are doing a lot of work, so.
Yeah, extraordinary stuff. So we got to continue to be in community and conversation, because people need to know and follow your example. I just think you're an extraordinary leader. But before we go, because we have one other guest I've got to get to from our friend in Connecticut here. But Robert, you have also been continuing your advocacy. We see you fighting on the state level too. You're doing extraordinary work just in your city, in your community, in the area, but with the statewide level, holding feet to the fire. What has that been like in your state?
It's been tough. It's interesting because you would think that in one of the most red states in the union, especially with school choice being a part of the platform, that school choice would be easy in Oklahoma. It's not. It's extremely difficult. The ed establishment has such a hold on power here in Oklahoma that it's extremely hard for our parents to have a voice. So it's just a constant battle. I mean, this session, we weren't even able to get one of our bills heard, which was an expansion of our tax credit scholarship. Florida's tax credit scholarship is near $1 billion. We're sitting at $5 million right now, capped at $5 million total. and that's a drop in the bucket for our families. Our families need more; they deserve better, and so we're working really hard to expand that. We're able to get a cap passed this session on authorizing fees for charters. You know, our charters are underfunded compared to the regular schools. They don't have access to facilities. So we're constantly battling to make sure that our charter students have equal access to resources that, you know, any other public school student would have. And so, you know, there's a lot of battles, you know, kids for incarcerated parents, kids with incarcerated parents, a scholarship we tried to pass this session for them. They just need a lot of help. You know, a lot of our children are being raised by by grandparents, I'm sorry, because their own parents are incarcerated, and we need to figure out a way to break that cycle. And so, no, there's just a lot of work going on at the state level, and just trying to keep, you know, fighting that battle.
Well, you guys are doing, again, extraordinary work, you know, paying attention, staying in the conversation. You know, this is the fight of our lives, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Changing this mindset that, you know, parents and families should have the power to opt out of a system that is underserving and frankly creating a generation of survivors yet again of this public education system. It's that tough work of having these conversations and changing that mindset that we've got to put children first, not the system first. And, you know, this is our work. So you guys are just so close to my heart. I love your work. It's inspiring for me to see. We're sending you love and solidarity. And I hope that you don't mind. We're going to hold you up time and again as a national example of how this work should be done. So Robert, thank you so much for being with us again this morning.
Thank you. Definitely recognize our parents, because they're the ones doing the majority of the work. So, you know.
We get, and Robert has done an extraordinary job of leading Scissortail Community Development Corporation, but it really is the work of parents. Parents are powerful. And I want to underscore what he was saying there. Robert, thank you so much for being with us. And it's actually a wonderful transition for our next guest, who I have learned from, I listen to all the time. A woman who always sticks in my brain. Whenever I say, parents don't need to be in power, parents are powerful, and they are powerful. That is something that I've heard Gwen Samuels from Connecticut say time and again. She is the president and founder of the Connecticut Parent Union. She is doing extraordinary work on the front lines during the pandemic. And, you know, her entire life devoted to social justice for our babies and our children. She is out in the streets all the time. Even during the pandemic, I see her out there with her mask because she's got to be. Miss Gwen, thank you for being with us. How are you?
One day at a time. That's all at this point. That's really all you can say. One day at a time.
Gwen, you again, you know, our first conversation here, you're talking about you were rapid respond. Like we've got homeless families in Connecticut all over the place. We got to get on this. These folks are being forgotten. That rapid response phase 1. You have now moved on to phase 2, 3, 4, and 5. You are operating on all cylinders. So let's catch up. Let's talk about what's happening in Connecticut right now. You have won an extraordinary victory for transparency, but you have still got to fight in the streets. This battle is ongoing. So let's talk about your transparency. Let's start there and what you were able to achieve.
Well, basically what you said earlier when you were talking to Robert from Oklahoma, right? Super shout out to Oklahoma handling their business. But you said something profound. You're saying because the politics doesn't stop. Right, I'm paraphrasing, right? They're still making those secret deals behind the scene. They're still making plans without the families regarding reopening Connecticut, reopening our schools. All these things are happening without the very people that they will impact. So when I think about the success of that, it's going to be a struggle, because anytime you exclude families and parents and student voices from the things that impact them, we're going to see what we always see: business as usual, and failing implementations of what I call pandemic politics, because people are not using common sense. Tim said it well, like common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Like seriously, We need some common sense in some of these decisions, and it's not happening. So parents will have to be in power on behalf of their children.
Well, Gwen, you are certainly in power. You are going up against a really powerful foundation, the state legislature, all folks, in bed with each other, making big decisions for our children without any transparency, without, no parent seats at the table. We're just going to cook up our little ideas of what we're going to do to your children and sprinkle a couple $1 million on it, and you're going to take your medicine and like it, families. That is not something that you stand for in Connecticut. Tell us what went down there. I want to lift this piece up because this is work in the pandemic.
Crazy. But it was crazy. Like I said, there was this billionaire, good intention. They said, look at things from good intention. He said, I have $100 million gift. Focus on the keyword gift. I don't know about you. How many of you, how do you give little Miles, here's your birthday gift, but here are the conditions of your birthday gift. Well, no longer a gift. So he gives $100 million. We're all excited. Everyone's cheering. And then he says, but you have to match my $100 million. Okay, fair enough. But the condition is, I want your tax dollars to be spent in secret. I want no transparency to access your public schools, to access your public children, the programming, and to access your state's pocketbook. It doesn't work that way. As soon as you put other people's children in the equation, there is nothing you will be doing in secret. But yet the law passed. And so as I tell every voter, and I will continue to say, it's more important than just pulling the lever. Understand the why. Why are you pulling the lever for a certain individual? Was there something very specific? Was it the principles? Did they align with your values? Because my state of Connecticut, majority, still Black and brown people that look like me, voted yes to circumvent the parent voice, the student voice, the veteran's voice, by having a secret, I call them a secret society. Mm-hmm. And you can have all the secrets you want, but just with your money, not with the taxpayers' money. And so it was a hard fight. It was less than a year, I will say, that we got it passed. And they say, well, you took on a billionaire. I said, no, I didn't take on a billionaire. I stood up for parents, the rights of parents, students, and the taxpayer and voter. So it wasn't taking
people fall for this stuff. They see, oh, $100 million. We got to get on that. Well, $100 million with all these conditions and no transparency, and you don't know how they're spending it. Like, our kids are not guinea pigs,
exactly.
Our kids are not your pet project. These are our children you're talking about. And if you screw it up and you've made all these decisions, the white saviors are going to hop back on their horses and get along on out of here, because they're not sending their kids to these schools. Their kids are going to private schools. Their kids will have tutors, everything else. And then where are we supposed to go and say, well, this billionaire screwed up. I need to get fourth grade back because this didn't work. Where is, what do we do if your pet project does not work out as planned? That is the whole problem with this. So you cannot fall for the $100 million. It's the same thing that happened here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. People were saying, oh my gosh, we're going to spend $2 billion on education. Okay, $2 billion on what exactly? Wow. And then they got big mad when we said, okay, you can have your $2 billion, but you're going to spend it on these things because we are going to address the opportunity gap. Don't you want to do that? Oh, no. All of a sudden, no, you can't be. Yes, we can, because I would like to see the receipts for what you're going to be spending this $2 billion on. And parents wrote that down, just like in Connecticut. Parents stood up and said, hell no, you're not doing this. Parents said, hell no, in Massachusetts, the Promise Act, that's not going to work for us. We're going to rewrite that with specifications, because we are not empowered parents. We are parents in power. And I learned that.
That's it. Hello. Call us the PIP Squad, Parents in Power, the PIP Squad. Yeah. Do not get it twisted. Yeah, this is very serious, because when I think about Dr. Howard Fuller, right? I think about those who have inspired us with quotes. People forget that when you think about Malcolm or Martin or our local individuals that share their experiences, their quotes are coming from lived experiences. And when you're talking about liberation, You can't have liberation without the very people that are trying to be liberated. It makes absolutely no sense. And then that's why I'm concerned about this reopening. Kids are little human beings. They got feelings, like they love the hugs and the mommy, the daddies, I love you. You're going to keep me safe. Some of this stuff look like sci-fi, Netflix. That will scare anybody to death. You got a 4-year-old, first day of school. You walk in and you see the bubble child, right? You see the bubble. No. So that's why I love what Robert is doing. I was speaking with another young lady, Chantel Parker from South Carolina. She works with parents down there as well. And we were talking about looking at a blended approach to reopening, because everybody is not going to send their children back to school. And to be honest, after this stuff with George Floyd and learning more about these union contracts, Keri, that's why I think you are the most important person, like right now, from a parent's lens, because you're not just a parent, you worked in the union. So you can help us as parents, like, understand these contracts. And I say that when I go back to George Floyd yes, rightfully so, we're upset about the kneeing to death of a gentleman. But on top of that, this man had 17 or 18 excessive force complaints. How did that get past anybody? Who is the watchdog?
Stop you right there, okay? Because I got to tell you something. We're all caught up in police brutality. I'd like to talk about educational brutality, okay?
Amen.
Because we want to talk about systems. We want to talk about systemic racism. We're not just talking about the police. We are talking about our education system. We're talking about our economic system. Systemic racism is not confined to police brutality. Like that
absolutely, amen.
And that is why I take great exception to some of the statements that are coming out from some of these teachers. And you know what? And I appreciate it. Yes, you are calling on police reform. Yes, you should. You should also be having a deep conversation with your membership about the institutional racism that exists there, because we need you to get your house in order. And let me tell you something about lived experience, Gwen. Okay, not just being, a former union member, union staff, or being in there. I was also a little girl who had the police called on her. I was expelled from public school. Like, you're not going to play with me when we talk about educational brutality, because I have lived experience I'd like to tell everybody about when it comes to that. And dismantling the push out, dismantling inequitable suspensions in our system, the institutional racism that exists, that must be dismantled. Like, this is just another system. So I'm sorry, teachers unions, yes, you should be calling out for police reform, but the idea that you make educational reform an epithet, a dirty word, the third rail, something we cannot talk about, that is a system that is in desperate need of reform. And
it's hypocrisy.
The school to prison pipeline starts in the school, starts in the classroom. When we have teachers and educators who are calling the cops on our kids in the classroom, I'm saying, Karen, in the classroom, come on now. That is a problem. We got to address that. So
it is serious.
How do you see this?
See, so I see this now, and that's why I think I spoke up about what's next, right? We done marched. We're crying. And so this, like I said, this is beyond police brutality. Because in my state of Connecticut, we have memorandums of understanding, they're supposed to be, between the police department and our public school districts. And yet there's a handful. So what's happening out there in the communities or in our communities are spilling over every day into the hallways of public schools in our country. So, you can't have one conversation. I call it pure hypocrisy. For when it comes to the union, excuse my French, everybody, y'all know y'all don't really, I call bullshit. Because, and I am very upset by saying that, but I'm saying, because it's hypocrisy. The very unions who are saying, oh, reform the police department has policies where your members can have sex with our children of a certain age. And if you don't think 16 is a child, then I don't know what planet you're from. And I don't know what dad or mom that is going to sit by and allow that to continue. So while we're reforming, That's why I want us to understand unions. Like in my house, I can't talk about this because the senior populations remember the unions of the 50s and the 40s and how they were instrumental. And so I said to my family, I'm not saying there wasn't a purpose for unions. I'm just saying whatever they're doing, whatever they did back then, they are not doing right now, or if they're doing it, we don't know. But we're harming the public with some of these union policies, and we need reform.
And Gwen, not to again beat up unions, because we started a union. You were right there with me when we started. We got a different kind of union here, like an actual union of people. But I'm thinking about our friend Nehemiah too, who flagging for me yesterday. We're having a conversation about the historic racism of our labor unions and how they were all white. And the AFL voting back in 1896 to prohibit Black folks from being able to, skilled workers from being able to join the AFL. And you see again, the majority, I used to work for 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East out of New York City. Majority people of color, started by pharmacists in the Bronx, back in the 1930s, 1920s, 1930s. But majority people of color in that union. But when you take a look at unions, they are majority white. Specifically, you want to talk about the teachers' unions. Again, majority white organization, majority white leadership. Oh. So again, like before we start to call, folks progressive, take a look. Is your own house in order? That's right. What I'm calling on folks for. Yes, we should have. Unions should be standing up for social justice and police reform. Reform yourselves. Take a look at your own house. What are you doing? What are you communicating to your members who are picking up the phones and calling the cops on kids because your classroom management is poor, because you can't handle it, because you feel your personal safety is at risk because a Black boy won't put his cell phone away, and so you're going to call the school resource officer on him? Come on now. It is a fundamental breakdown of the relationships. It's a lack of cultural competence. All of these things. It's blatant racism in many cases. Because I got to tell you, Gwen, there are high schools in Boston, Massachusetts, where you have teachers threatening kids to call ICE on them. That is a thing that is happening. So until I see teachers unions having a real tough conversation, having a come to Jesus moment, saying, you know what, our organization is majority white. Are we doing what we need to do? Because when we take a look at the results we're getting for kids, are we underserving kids? Are we not doing right by them? Is the belief gap a real thing? Are we calling the cops on kids in classroom? Until I see that happening, to me, it's just another Facebook post. You might as well be Whole Foods telling me, how you stand with Black folks today. I don't know what else to say to you.
And that's important to know, because again, it's, like you say, we're not trying to necessarily bash, but transparency and accountability is what it is. When you have other people's children, they're entrusting you with their most precious ones. And some of these policies shouldn't be, but it's not just the union's fault. It's the lawmakers who want something from them, who want their vote, who want their campaign donations, who turned a blind eye to many of these policies. And so that's why we need to vote with a conscience, instead of just go back to the polls in November and say, oh, I'm going to vote for him again. I knew my mother from church. I tell folk in a minute, I can break bread with you. I can take a photo with you and still not vote for you, because one does not equal the other. So we have work to do as parents. We must put our children first. We must really think with common sense when it comes to the reopening. And we need to make sure there are options on the table, because everyone, after all we saw, we're going to be looking at schools with suspect as well. No one wants to send their children knowing that there can be language in a contract that can allow you to do whatever you want to other people's children with no accountability. And until these union contracts do not protect, bad actors, then there's still going to be these general conversations about the dangers of unions. And there could be good ones out there. I don't know. All I know is that there are too many bad actors in the public sector. Doesn't mean that it's not in the private sector or other parts, but the problem is taxpayers pay you to harm us. And that's where the problem is.
I think your message is loud and clear, and that's something we've been embracing with the National Parents Union launching Every Family Votes, led by Maritza in Philadelphia, Kulia in Minnesota, and Tafshir in Newark, New Jersey, all coming together, creating a masterful campaign led by Black women who know this work, who have done this work, and are experts on this work. And it's our goal to make sure every family in America is registered and is voting, but is informed about who they are voting for, and they're asking questions. And we're setting up town halls, and we're speaking truth to power to make sure that these folks know that, you know, the days of saying, well, these people don't care, these people don't show up, those days are over. And we're
they're definitely over, and we can show them better than we can tell them. I'm gonna show you that.
Well, Gwen, I want to leave you with the final word here. You got any words of wisdom? We got a lot of organizations that are trying to serve their families, stay in the political mix. You know, what's up for you for the next couple of months, and what words of wisdom do you have for us in the last few minutes?
So right now we're just focusing on the post George Floyd as things start to settle down, really targeting public policy, because our legislative session didn't start, it ended quickly because of COVID. So that means they're going to try some secret stuff coming up to meet it and passing all these laws behind the scenes without the people. So I'm trying to stay rested, trying to be mentally prepared, not be all up in the emotions like I usually get, because I'm very passionate, as you know, about children, but just staying focused, staying vigilant, but most importantly, focusing on self-care and continuing to encourage other parents in this fight, because I don't care who you are. It can be overwhelming because we have pandemics and protests and policy, PQ'd, and that's a lot for anybody. So just keep your wits about you as we figure all this out, and remember, you're not in it alone. Let's work together on this. All hands on deck, as they say. So thank you for having me.
Mechanism that we're going to have to steal, PQ'd.
Yes, pandemics, protests, and policies. Oh, that's it. That's on the table.
Gwen, we love you. We're so glad to check in with you, and let us know if there's anything we can do for you, because you do so much for us just in your spirit and your leadership. Thank you so much, and have a great one. All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for being with us this morning. That was fun.
That was great.
I love checking in with our folks.
Crazy
Robert
Tuesday.
in Oklahoma, and Gwen and Hartford, Connecticut. Just so glad not Hartford, just outside. But checking in with Connecticut, all our folks across the country.
That's right.
Great morning. A lot of work to do. Self-care is important too. While you're out there in the streets, make sure you're taking care of your heart and your people. So we'll be back again tomorrow morning.
Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.